So if you really want to take your life to the next level, you want to grab your life by the reins and actually gain more control over yourself, over everything, you must stop looking outside of yourself for validation, for answers to questions, for acceptance. You have to find that acceptance within yourself. You have to take control of your narrative, of your life story. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. If we haven't met yet, my name's Yelena and this is my little dog Ozzy, and I'm really excited. This is a topic that really rings home to me today, and it was a special request, so I'm very excited to talk to you about it because it's something that really had a negative effect on my life for many years, and that is caring about what other people think of you. And I guarantee you there are so many people out there who still do care. I mean, we are human beings after all, but I promise you that you can gain that freedom in your life to not care and put yourself out there and be who you want to be, right? And accept the fact that if somebody doesn't approve of you, if somebody doesn't like your personality, that's completely fine. How many people, like 7 billion or something like that, in this entire world? You can't win them all, okay? So I'm really excited to bring you the tips that have helped me tremendously to taking that next step and not caring what the hell people think of me. First, I want to read you a little quote that comes from one of my favorite spiritual teachers, Matt Kahn. And it was very interesting because after I decided to make this video, I found this quote that he posted right after on Instagram yesterday. And I thought, how appropriate, how synchronistic. And it says, how you believe others view you only reveals what you think about yourself. That's a pretty powerful statement. And the second part says, equally so, how others perceive you, it merely suggests the depth to which they know themselves. So it kind of makes you think about this topic from a couple different perspectives, right? And we're going to get into this a little bit deeper as well. But first and foremost, I was having a deep talk with my parents the other day, and my mom was like, yeah, you really have gotten to a point where you just don't care anymore what people think of you. You're so easy to just put yourself out there. And I'm like, God, it made me think and look back at my life and realize how far I've really come. So as far as I can remember, when I was a little girl growing up through junior high, high school, college, I was very different and I hated that. I just wanted to fit in. I wanted to be like the other kids so badly, and I never felt like I did. So I feel like from that point, I began to dull my sparkle to make other people feel more comfortable, and I kind of lost myself. I really lost touch with who I was authentically, and I became conditioned by my surroundings. And I would do anything just to fit in, just to make people like me. And yeah, I cared so much about what other people thought of me. So if you are the type of person who's been stuck in this vicious cycle, I have compiled some of the most amazing tips that have really helped me pull myself out of this type of life and create a new one where I don't really care what the heck anybody thinks about me. I'm free to put myself out there, be who I want to be, and yeah, it's a pretty freeing experience. So if you're interested in that, then stick with me here. We're going to go ahead and start with tip number 1. Stop the people pleasing already. I want you to take a quick reflection on your life. First and foremost, how often do you do things out of guilt or obligation? How often are you either walking on eggshells or changing and altering your behavior just to coddle the emotions of another person? How often do you do things just to avoid confrontation? How often do you dull your sparkle in order to make another person feel more comfortable? Well, these are just a couple prime examples of being a people pleaser. But if you checked off even just one box here, I really think that I can help you out. Here's another great quote by Cheryl Richardson that says, "If you spend your life pleasing others, you spend your life." For the longest time, I found myself just going along with the beliefs and behaviors of other people, even if it was against my values, because I wanted to be liked and I wanted to be accepted so badly. I was always looking for validation outside of myself, never consulting my inner voice, not even really knowing that it existed at that point. And I constantly attracted situations that would trigger this. Not only did I find myself hanging out with all the wrong types of people, which led me down a really, really nasty road of addiction and other things, I have a real life example for you. So I had a situation where I had a mentor in my life. And at this point in my life, I was just starting to gain a little bit of confidence in myself, but not quite enough yet. And I always tried my hardest, felt like I was doing such a good job, but I never quite got the relationship that I thought I deserved or that I wanted with this person. And although they kept promoting me and keeping me around, they were actually very standoffish. I never got the acknowledgement, the validation, the care, or the love that I really wanted from this person. So after about a year of reflection and trying harder and harder and harder, and many nights of going home so disappointed, not understanding what I was doing wrong. Is it me? Is it this person? What is it? I finally started to realize that I was looking outside of myself for what I needed to be giving myself internally. And that I was going to continue attracting this situation until I just walked away from it. And I realized I didn't fit in this situation that I was in anyways, but it didn't matter at that point because I wanted the acceptance, I wanted to fit in, I wanted validation. Well, this place wasn't for me anyways. So once I came to all those realizations, I finally got myself out of this situation, and I started working on giving myself that care and love and validation that I so badly needed, that I was looking for in this other person. And because of that, I was people pleasing, and I was sticking around a lot longer than I should have. People pleasing is very, very common. It is just a sign of low self-confidence. It leads to codependency. You become a yes man. You start saying yes to everything. You alter your personality. You start to adapt the behaviors and the patterns of other people, even if it goes against your values and who you are as a person. And all it's doing is feeding that aspect of you that cares so much about what other people think. You just keep feeding it and feeding it and feeding it. So at some point, you're going to blow up. You're going to explode. The tension's going to rise to the surface because you cannot wear this people-pleasing mask and have it work for you forever. You just can't. When people are not being the authentic version of themselves, when they have a facade going on, which is exactly what people pleasing is, it can't possibly be sustained. So while you have the awareness that you're doing it now, you might as well start taking small little baby steps and moving in the opposite direction. Authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are. All right, guys, moving on to number 2, know your worth. I'm going to tell you one thing. If you don't truly value yourself, then how in the world can you expect other people to value you? And you're probably wondering, well, crap, how do I value myself? And the first way to start is by taking care of your damn self. Excuse my French, but I need to put an emphasis on how important this is. Like I talked about earlier, grabbing the reins of your life and actually taking control. So you take responsibility not only of the material things like your finances, your hygiene, foods that you eat, healthy diet, but you're also taking control of your emotions, your mental stability, and that right there will bring you that self-worth that I speak of. So here, I want to give you the definition of self-worth. It's a feeling that you are a good person who deserves to be treated with respect. So you actually feel that way, like, hey, I actually deserve respect and I'm not going to accept anything less because I know I've been working hard. and I deserve it. So how do we do this? Okay, first and foremost, you got to get rid of all the shallow stuff in your life. All the fake, all the shallow, a lot of things that are basically valued by society at large. Things that are kind of drilled down our throat in magazines, television, music videos, movies, lots of those things. And I'm talking our addictions to brands. Like, have you ever seen a person that actually cannot walk out of the house unless they're wearing pretty much all designer? Also, the people who take their looks for granted way too much, as well as the amount of money that you've got in your bank account. While that's important, that doesn't make or break who we are as a person. How skinny you are, how many friends you have, what your job title is. None of these things that I'm discussing right here have anything to do with your value and self-worth as a person. But unfortunately, the media and a lot of things out there really make it seem like they do. So we have a skewed perception of reality, and it's all a facade. So I want you to come back to your authenticity and who you really are as a person. This is by focusing on things like compassion, kindness. Have you ever seen those t-shirts that say kindness is really hot? Yeah, I kind of want to get one of those. Those are really cute. Your emotional intelligence. Who would have thought that being emotionally intelligent was kind of hot too? Your mental stability, your health, and actually how healthy you are inside and out, how much empathy you have, the respect that you have for yourself, as well as the respect that you have for other people, and many more things where all of those came from. And finally, we have to stop basing our self-worth on those things outside of us, like relationships. We can't base our worth on the love that we get from another person, our looks, or the job title that we have. The reason being is that these things, they all come and go. They fluctuate. Nothing is permanent. And they're constantly in a state of change. So if we base our self-worth and our identity off of these things, you can only imagine when those things crumble when we leave our job, say we get fired or whatever it might be, we get older, our looks fade. It can be really, really difficult to try to restructure that ego aspect of your mind and recover from something like that when you base your self-worth and who you are as a person off of these type of shallow factors. If you find yourself constantly trying to prove your worth to someone, you have already forgotten your value. Number 3, shift your perspective. Try to look at things from a grander scale. Look at the bigger picture. So what I mean by this is, if you really think about it, other people, we think that they care about us and that they're thinking about us so much, but what we don't realize is that they're probably sitting there wondering what other people are thinking about them. They've got their own lives going on, their own jobs, their own problems, their own kids, what they got to eat for lunch, what time they're going to bed, when they've got to be at this appointment, on and on and on and on and on. So you can only imagine, here we are sitting there thinking that this person is caring so much about us, when in all reality, and I promise you this might be a little hard to hear, might sting a little bit, but it's really actually pretty self-centered and self-absorbed to think that somebody actually cares enough to be thinking about us that much. So when you look at it from that perspective, it kind of might shift the way that you see the situation in general. Now, a second way to look at this is that people's opinions and the way that they see us come from their own beliefs and viewpoints. Those beliefs and viewpoints are completely different from ours. Everybody's living a completely different reality based off of the way that things happen for them in their past, okay? Everybody's viewing things through a different lens. What's good for you may not work for them, and vice versa. So with that said, the only perspective that should matter to you is your own, because you are the only one who truly knows you. They don't. So we need to stop worrying so much about the opinions that other people have, because that's coming from their own past and beliefs and some of all those things that we just discussed. You just need to worry about your perspective. That's all. So these are just 2 broader ways of looking at the same situation. You wouldn't worry so much about what people thought about you if you knew how seldom they did. Number 4. Make it a point to do something outside of your comfort zone on a regular basis. So when we are the types of people who are always caring what other people think about us, we hold ourselves back from achieving our goals, going after our dreams, chasing after that life that we always wanted to achieve. Successful people don't fear failure, but they understand that it's necessary to learn and grow from. Basically, we do this because we have a fear of failure or fear of being judged, okay? So those two things in general are exactly what we need to face. So the first thing that you can do here is compile a list of the fears that you have, as well as those things that lie outside of your comfort zones. Next, you want to make sure that you're taking little baby steps towards facing those fears. So maybe there's a big goal that you'd like to achieve, taking little baby steps. And then you'd be surprised at how these little steps accumulate, and next thing you know, you've achieved so much. But one piece of advice that I want to give to you, being a person who is always pushing myself outside of my comfort zone, is that when you do shift, when you do push yourself into that zone, you're going to meet up with some discomfort. For me, the easiest thing has been to just start to get comfortable in this discomfort. Just even start to enjoy it in a weird way. And when you can do that, oh, how you'll grow. Another tip is to hang out with people who push themselves out of their comfort zone, people that are risk takers, people that are goal getters. And that way you have some people in your life that are positive influences and pushing you towards that person you desire to become. Now, once you start doing all of these types of things, your self-worth starts to develop even more. You become really proud of your accomplishments, and it starts to become an addiction. You want to accomplish more. And with this newfound sense of self-esteem, you are that much closer to not caring what the hell other people think. How cool is that, right? Each time you try something for the first time, you'll grow. And a little piece of the fear of the unknown is removed and replaced with a sense of empowerment. Number 5, understanding projection. So most of the time when somebody gives you an opinion and you just obsess over it, you just worry so much about what this other person thinks of you and the opinion that they just gave you, this most of the time is what's called a projection. And I'll give you the definition of a projection. Projection is a defense mechanism that's used to cope with feelings and emotions that we have trouble expressing or coming to terms with ourselves. Human beings tend to do this thing where they project their own inner self-judgment, their beliefs, and their fears onto other people. And I want to give you an example. I work at a high-end restaurant, fine dining type of thing. And a lot of people ask me at the bar, what are you doing bartending? What are you doing working here? You know, why don't you do something else? But I start to tell them that I have a dream of being a YouTuber full time and creating a business based around yoga and health and wellness. And I have been judged so many multiple times by people saying that there is no way. You need to just get yourself a good corporate job. There's just not enough money, especially with yoga in that industry, or YouTube is too saturated. There's no way. There's so many people already doing that. Don't waste your time. But basically, I know that this is just a projection of other people's beliefs. Maybe they haven't been able to create their own business or whatever they think inside of themselves that they're basically just projecting out on me. So I am not going to accept what they say as my truth. Because if I do, then I'm obviously never going to accomplish what I truly want to accomplish either, right? This is why we truly have to abolish this whole I care so much about what other people think and release it, because it is doing nothing but harming you in the long run. It's shattering your belief systems, the belief that you have in yourself, and your ability to stand on your own 2 feet to determine your own future. I have one more quick example for you. Totally different topic, but I was part of a philosophy type of study group at one point, and there were so many different types of people in this study group. So there were, people like me who's just really interested in self-development and the different topics to help better my life and those around me. But there were also people in there that were recovering from drugs or alcohol or whatever it might be. There was this one individual in the group, and I had to miss out on a couple of the meetings. I started a new job. I was extremely busy. I was working long hours, and it was okay because I had my own mechanisms in place to make sure that I was in balance emotionally well and whatever it might be. But to this person, this was their saving grace. It was their rehab of some sorts. So for me not coming and showing up to a couple of the sessions, this person had approached me and said, listen, this is going to be bad for your overall well-being. You have to show up for yourself. I'm really worried about you. Blah, 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 when there was absolutely no reason for this person to be worried about me or have any of these types of thoughts. But what I realized after speaking to a friend, that this person was just projecting their own insecurities, inner critique, the self-judgment of themselves, as well as just the problems that they were going through as a person in general onto me. And once I understood it from that viewpoint, I was able to just kind of let it go and send my love to that person and move on. Whatever happens around you, don't take it personally. Nothing other people do is because of you. It's because of themselves. Number 6, become more independent. Now, just hear me out. This is a big step right here to gaining that freedom and not caring what other people think about you. So from a young age, especially in the Western culture over here in the United States, this is just one example which may not resonate with everyone. So most people from a very young age, when we come into this world, we are taken care of by other people, by our parents, guardians, whatever it might be, grandparents. We are being taken care of. And it can be really, really hard when people finally do go out on their own to gain that independence and take care of themselves. Usually when people move out of the house from their parents, maybe they move in with somebody else and they start to rely on whoever that person might be, whether it be a roommate or a boyfriend or whomever. This develops very extreme codependent behavior. And there are many other types of things in life that can create codependency as well, but it is a total lack of becoming an independent person. And until we resolve it and gain independence, it is a vicious cycle that will just continue. Because of this, you have absolutely no confidence because you're full of fears about not being able to survive out there on your own. You're basically in survival mode and relying on other people constantly. And I definitely think that it's worth reflecting and taking a look at your life to see if this is something that could be affecting you. For a really long time in my life, I was completely dependent on my father. He paid all my bills. Basically, I was not taking responsibility to even take initiative to do this. And this did not help my self-esteem out any, trying to get a free ride on somebody else. And it really was not a good look. And honestly, it appeared to everybody else, or I wanted it to appear to everybody else, that I had my you-know-what together and that I paid all my bills. So I really was not being my authentic self. I was trying to create this facade because I cared about what everybody thought about me so much. So instead of actually taking control of my life, I was creating this scenario that was false to prove to everyone that I had my crap together when I really didn't. Finally came a day when I was so sick of this and this false mask that I was wearing that I finally decided to take control of my life. And now I can proudly say that I pay all my own bills and I am a completely independent woman that doesn't rely on anybody else for anything. And it sure does feel good. I can be my authentic self and I don't have to prove anything to anybody, nor do I want to, okay? So it is a really empowering thing to gain independence and stop caring so much about what other people think of you. So I have come up with a couple things that you can do to strive and move towards gaining that independence in your life. Now, these are things that have helped me. First and foremost, journaling, and especially journaling and trying to figure out what your personal values are. Now, there's another exercise that you can do too to try and figure out over the course of time what your values are. Just notice the things that trigger you in life, the things that make you anxious, that you just are not okay with, and right there probably lies one of your values. So just keep track of that, jot them down in your journal, because the most important thing here is getting to know yourself. And these are all activities that will help with that. Studying astrology or numerology. Now, only if this resonates with you, of course, but this has been a huge tool that has helped me out tremendously. And numerology, there's this one number called the life path number that taught me so much about myself. And this will teach you actually what you're here to learn, what you're here to accomplish, and the difficulties in doing so. So you actually learn so much through astrology and numerology that if you're going through difficult things in life, this might shine some light on those things and actually bring you a big sigh of relief. If you want me to make a video on life path numbers, I would love to do so that you can use them as a tool for self-development. Another thing I have on my list here is reading self-help books. So once I got into spirituality and just wanting to become a better version of myself, I started buying a lot of self-development and self-help books, which helped me so much. Just gaining that knowledge and then working towards embodying it so that you can turn it into wisdom and become the best version of you. What else do I have here? Oh, yoga, of course. And I'm sure there are so many other things. These are just things that really help me, but yoga has its way of peeling back the layers of the version of you that you're trying to shed and bringing to the surface the qualities that you need to learn about yourself. Yoga has really helped me to learn more about myself as well as just feel more confident in my own skin. Next is stop looking to other people for answers. So part of becoming this independent woman or man that you want to become, you have to be the answer. You have to be the one that gives yourself that answer. Empower yourself. Next is spend some more time alone. So make it a point to take yourself out on dates. So even if you've never went out to eat by yourself or go to a movie by yourself. Even if you're the type of person who is not used to running errands alone, make it a point to go somewhere alone, starting to get a little bit more comfortable with yourself, doing things on your own. One of the most important things that I have wrote down here is being your own source of emotional support. So sometimes we rely on other people so much, that shoulder to cry on, those people to go talk to, when sometimes we're not even realizing that we're actually being an energy vampire. It's probably sucking these other people dry. Some people really truly want to listen and be empathetic, but we need to learn to be that source of emotional support for ourselves. Now, who's to say that there's not a time that we really do need another person? There's no problem with that. All I'm saying is if this is something that you're used to relying on as other people to support you emotionally, I would highly suggest that you start looking more within you. Finally, on my list here is learning to set boundaries. So becoming more assertive, learning to say no. And I think I touched about this a little bit earlier. And I'll tell you right now, when you do start to gain control of your life and start setting those boundaries, some people aren't going to like this. The people who are used to you being that yes woman or yes man, and the people who like to take advantage of that and like you to do things for them all the time, they're not going to like that so much. And this is a huge shift in energy, not only for you, but for them as well. So I just want to forewarn you that you really will start to see who your true friends are and the people who really deserve to have you in their lives. These people will be the ones that stick around and will respect the boundaries that you're implementing. People may have also gotten used to you being this excessive, caring, caretaker type of person. You're always excessively caring about the needs, wants, and emotions of other people. But what we don't realize is that this is actually very unhealthy. We cannot base our happiness and the way that our lives are going to go on the needs of another person. And this is another thing that we need to draw a line and draw a boundary for. But once again, just understand that this is like taking a drug away from a drug addict, and there will be small repercussions that you have to be willing to deal with. In order to find that freedom, sometimes we have to go over a couple bumps first. So one final thing that you can do in setting these boundaries is make sure to create a list of what I like to call valuables, or things that are non-negotiables in your life, things that you absolutely need no matter what anybody else says. This could be things as important as getting 8 full hours of sleep per night. You must have 1 or 2 hours a day for physical exercise that you do on your own. Taking that self-care time to take care of you no matter what other responsibilities you have in your life or whatever these things might be for you. These are just a couple of examples. Maybe you need an hour for meditation or quiet time where you read a book. Me time, right? An hour with your girlfriends once or twice a week. Whatever this is for you, make a list and do not budge no matter what anybody says. You're gonna be happy, said life, but first, I'll make you strong. Well, these are my tips, you guys, on how not to care what other people think of you and becoming the best version of yourself with that in mind. So I hope that these were helpful, and I wish you the best of luck. If you have any other questions or concerns, please leave a comment below, as well as if you benefited from this content, tap that like button. Make sure to share this with your friends, hit subscribe, and thank you so much once again for joining me for another video. I can't wait to see you guys in the next one. Peace.